Picture this. You're on a boat with your family, enjoying a vacation in the beautiful blue ocean. Everything seems normal and peaceful, with water stretching endlessly in all directions. But suddenly, everything changes in an instant. The ocean water mysteriously disappears, and you find yourself stranded on the empty, desolate ocean floor. Your mind races with questions. Where did all the water go? Will it ever come back? Our story begins with a family celebrating their son Ben's birthday in the middle of the Caribbean Ocean. They were all happy, trying to create a memorable moment together. Little did they know, this happiness would be short-lived. While everything seemed normal and they were enjoying the ocean view, Ben's mother Julia decided to jump into the water for a swim. Ben and his father Tom were busy fishing when Julia suddenly felt something large circling around her underwater. When Julia looked around, she couldn't see anything, but then something pulled her underwater. The boat's equipment started moving wildly in different directions, as if something big was happening. Ben and Tom, focused on fishing, didn't immediately understand what was going on. Julia found herself drifting far from the boat and starting to drown. She called out desperately for Tom, but since she was so far away, no one noticed her at first. Julia also felt the ocean water rushing backward rapidly. Luckily, Tom heard Julia's faint calls and saw her in the water. He immediately jumped in to save her while Ben started the boat engine to reach them. Tom successfully rescued Julia from drowning, and Ben and Cassie, their daughter, pulled both parents back onto the boat. Tom then scolded Cassie for not paying attention, reminding her that she was supposed to watch her mother while she swam. Cassie apologized, explaining she had her headphones on. As night approached and he prepared to celebrate Ben's birthday, Cassie received a video call from her boyfriend. He warned them urgently to get to the surface quickly, saying the TV was reporting something very unusual was about to happen worldwide. Cassie noticed a massive storm behind her boyfriend in the city, which worried her since they weren't in a safe location. Their connection suddenly cut off. When the family checked their boat's safety, they noticed many whales and sharks circling around them, unusual for this area. Tom, being an experienced ocean explorer, knew that whales and sharks only behave this way before a terrible storm hits. Before they could react, their boat received a powerful impact from something large underwater. Tom dove underwater to inspect the damage and found a large dent in the boat's hull, clearly made by a big shark. When he surfaced, he had a deep shoulder wound that Julia had to stitch up. Tom explained that the shark's impact had damaged the engine, leaving them unable to move the boat. They were now stranded in the middle of the ocean with only one option: call for help. However, when Cassie tried to make calls, there was no signal. All communication systems had stopped working. Tom checked their food supplies and found they only had enough for 4 days. Their only hope was that they were on a shipping route where passing ships might spot them. During their discussion, they heard a loud sound from outside. Looking up, they saw a large meteorite heading toward them. To avoid collision, Tom started the damaged engine, knowing it would completely destroy it, but they had no choice. Tom realized that the falling objects were actually satellites, which explained why radio and telephone signals had stopped working. Before they could fully recover from this incident, another meteorite approached them. To protect themselves, they went below deck and put on life jackets in case the boat capsized. The boat shook violently. They heard a tremendous sound, and everyone lost consciousness. When they regained consciousness, they were amazed to find themselves alive, though injured. Surprisingly, despite holes in their boat, no water was coming in. When the family came outside to look around, they were shocked by what they saw. There was no water beneath their boat. Instead, fish were lying on the ground around them, and their boat was sitting in a desolate mountainous area, as if they had been transported to another world. The place had completely changed. Where there had been water the night before, there were now tall mountains and deep valleys. They quickly realized they weren't in a desert, but still in the middle of the ocean. All the seawater had somehow shifted elsewhere. Tom took out his compass and checked directions, understanding that something had gone terribly wrong with Earth. The North and South poles had switched positions, causing the ocean water to move to where land used to be, and former ocean floors had become dry land. After discovering this phenomenon, they were all stunned. Tom delivered even more devastating news. All the people who had been living on land were likely dead. This information deeply hurt Cassie, who locked herself in the cabin, realizing her boyfriend was no longer alive. Julie began collecting their remaining food, while Ben released his birthday balloons into the air, hoping any survivors might see them and join forces. Tom tried to contact someone via radio. To his surprise, he received a response from Captain Nato, who was also aware of the ocean shift because he was in his submarine. When Tom asked what they should do, the captain delivered terrifying news. The Earth's poles would return to their original positions in about a week, meaning the ocean would return with extremely dangerous waves. The captain advised Tom to quickly find high ground for better survival chances. Julie immediately told her children to pack. Tom asked if the captain could take his family in the submarine, but the captain explained that his partner had died and there was only room for 2 people. He could take 1 adult, but someone would still be left behind. Tom pleaded with the captain to take both his children in exchange for all their remaining food. The captain agreed and shared his location on the map. Tom calculated they could reach the submarine in 2 days, before the ocean returned, potentially saving both children's lives. The next morning, as the family prepared for their journey, Tom spotted a strange man with a dog approaching them. The man appeared injured, so Tom went to help him with water. However, instead of being grateful, the man attacked Tom with a knife, killing him. Julie witnessed this from a distance. The killer then approached Julie, who quickly went inside the boat and locked her children in the cabin. She gave Cassie a flare gun, telling her to use it only in dire circumstances. Julie hid in the bathroom while the killer searched the boat. Finding food, he ate ravenously as if he'd been starving for days. When he looked for Julie, she had escaped through a hole in the boat and hidden underneath it. The killer's dog spotted Julie and started barking, forcing her to kill the animal to stay hidden. When the killer saw his dead dog, he realized Julie was outside the boat. As he climbed down to catch her, Julie climbed back up through the broken glass and re-entered the boat. Eventually, the killer caught Julie and began choking her. Cassie, watching from the cabin, used the flare gun, which knocked the killer away and started a fire on the boat. Julie quickly evacuated her children from the burning boat. The killer attacked once more, but Julie kicked him away. Outside, Cassie and Ben cried upon seeing their father's dead body. Ben blamed himself, saying if he hadn't released the balloons, the man wouldn't have found them. Julie also mourned her husband, but seeing the killer emerge from the burning boat, she knew they had to flee immediately. The boat soon exploded behind them. Exhausted from running, they stopped to rest behind a hill, thinking the killer had given up. But Julie soon spotted him still following them. They continued running through the desolate landscape, eventually reaching an area with poisonous water. Despite the danger, Julie ordered them to cross it. After passing through the toxic area, their condition worsened, and Ben became dehydrated from their last drops of water. Feeling defeated, Cassie questioned whether the submarine would even be there, but Julie scolded her and insisted they continue. They found an old crashed airplane and hid inside it, looking at a family photo they'd taken the night before. They could hardly believe how much had changed in just one day. As night fell and the children slept, the killer found them again. When Cassie awoke to sounds outside, she saw the killer approaching. She pretended to sleep, and when he came to attack, Julie struck from behind. This time, Julie was furious and killed the killer with multiple blows. They could finally rest peacefully. In the morning, they found the killer's body had been eaten by some creature, warning them of other dangerous animals nearby. They needed to reach the submarine quickly. While Julie checked her map, Ben wandered off looking for water. Finding a pond, he drank from it despite Julie's warnings about it being poisonous. Though Julie stopped him, he'd already consumed quite a bit and became seriously ill. They built a shelter to rest, but Julie heard strange sounds outside. Looking outside, Julie saw hundreds of crabs approaching them. They ran and found a large cargo ship with containers where other survivors had taken shelter. However, these survivors, seeing the crabs behind Julie's family, refused to open their containers. With no other choice, Julie and her children climbed on top of the containers. A crab bit Julie's leg, but she managed to escape and bandaged her wound before losing consciousness. The crabs cut through the containers and attacked the people inside. Despite having weapons, the survivors couldn't fight off the overwhelming number of crabs and were killed. The next morning, Julie awoke to find her children missing, but soon saw them returning with food, water, and weapons they'd gathered from the aftermath. Julie contacted Captain Nato, who reported that the same creatures had attacked him and he was badly injured, unable to help them anymore. He also warned that the ocean would return very soon, which was why the sea creatures were already returning to the area. Julie began crying as they'd also lost their map during the night's chaos, leaving them without clear directions to the submarine. The captain fired a flare gun to show his location, which Ben spotted in the distance. Though far away, they headed toward it quickly. However, they had to traverse rocky terrain where they might encounter more crabs. Cassie worried about what would happen to her mother, since the captain could only take her and Ben in the submarine. Julie told her not to worry, and that they'd decide what to do when they reached the submarine. Their luck ran out again when a landslide occurred, trapping Julie behind a large boulder, while Cassie and Ben were on the other side. Cassie didn't want to leave her mother, but Julie made her promise to save herself and her brother. Reluctantly, Cassie took Ben and continued toward the submarine. When they reached the submarine, no one was there. They knocked loudly on the door until the injured captain appeared from behind. He explained that the submarine could hold 3 people, and since his chances of survival were minimal, even if he reached the surface, he wouldn't survive his injuries. Hearing this, Cassie immediately turned back to help her mother. Waves of crabs approached Julie's location, and she shot them with her gun until she ran out of bullets. Just as a creature was about to attack her, Cassie reached down and helped pull her mother to safety. They ran to the submarine and quickly got inside as the dangerous crabs followed them. Then they saw it. A massive, terrifying ocean wave hundreds of meters high approaching them at tremendous speed. The wave struck their submarine with incredible force, knocking them unconscious. When Julie regained consciousness, she was amazed to find their submarine wasn't underwater, but had been carried by the giant wave into a completely destroyed city. The devastated cityscape made it clear that humanity on land had been wiped out. The movie ends with this haunting scene, showing the complete transformation of their world and the family's uncertain future in this post-apocalyptic landscape. This thrilling survival story shows how quickly everything can change and how far people will go to protect their loved ones when facing impossible odds.